So welcome to the Lanbrew podcast, episode 1, podcast 1, and we're doing episode 7, coincidentally,
Yeah.
of Star Wars. I'm Sean Tyler, and I'm here with,
Nikhil Boplay.
and we're starting a new series here for Lanbrew, for the Lanbrew podcast, and what we're going to be doing is watching a movie and then just riffing on it for 30 minutes. So, well, and you mentioned that this is the first time you've seen it since you saw it in theaters, right?
I think so. I mean, I think I've seen like bits and pieces of it, like passing through rooms or something, but I haven't sat down and watched it properly in the proper format, because now it's on TV and it's like pan and scanned and stuff, and it's kind of like a bummer. So this will be interesting.
So I've seen it. I saw it twice in theaters and then twice outside of theaters. So this would be my fifth time, I guess, to watch it. So, okay, so let's go watch the movie.
Let's go watch it.
We did it. We watched episode 7.
Uh-huh.
I've seen it 5 times now, which is a pretty low number compared to, I think, a lot of other people. But so that was your second viewing.
I think I saw it twice in theater, so this is my third viewing.
Oh, okay.
It was cool because like doing this podcast, it's like we're kind of like focusing. It's like it's not a casual view.
Yeah.
So it's different than like the first like one, obviously, but this time it's like it's like trying. It's weird because it's like I'm trying to be like as open as possible to what I'm watching and not judge it, just sort of let it come. But obviously you can't like not think about your own opinions. But that's kind of like the whole story behind this movie in the first place, is like it's kind of a hard movie in general because there's just a lot of baggage,
There's a lot of baggage. There's 6 other movies.
Yeah.
Well, and so we were just talking earlier about, and not on the podcast, but about canon with this series and what has been thrown out and what is still good. And as far as I know, what is still good is obviously all the the trilogy, the prequels, this movie, obviously, the animated series that they did, Rebels, the other animated series, the Clone Wars was the first animated series, which was fantastic.
Never saw it.
Never saw it. Oh man, great, really good.
Heard good things.
Yeah, really good. And that's it. Everything else has been tossed out. So
right.
I think there's less baggage than we could have had, I guess, going into it. But
sure.
But so,
right.
I mean, where do you even start with this? Let me ask you this: do you think that 7 brought it back with this in mind, that number 3, we won't even talk about episode 1 and 2, but episode 3 was really the last interaction we've had with Star Wars. So do you think, and I think everyone can agree that we left episode 3 feeling like, what is this? Like, the end of 3 is obviously good. They started bringing it back, and
I mean, when I think of 3, I think I was thinking of like Yoda and whoever that is. I guess Palpatine fighting in the Senate. And it's awesome. Like, it's cool. Like that's like I love watching that part because it's like crazy. Just like the visual of being in the Senate and then throwing those things at each other, and then it gets like, I feel like the emotion is there when Anakin and Ben are fighting. Obi-Wan are fighting. Like it's intense, and I think that like I remember in theaters, like this 2005, we were like 18 when that came out. That the two things I remember is like kind of being like, everybody at that point had already kind of thought that the prequel sucked, but I think that if you were in the theaters watching that movie and the end of that movie, I think you were into it.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't deny that like what you're looking at was like cool, and it was intense, and everything that had been building up to this sort of climax, and it was a good climax, and I guess as far as George Lucas goes, he had been out of the game for so long that it was like it took him 2 movies to kind of get back up to speed, and then he was like kind of great again, and things were like moving more fluidly, and it was like cool to look at.
Yeah, because he stopped making the prequels about like minute political discussions between the Trade Federation and the Republic, and we got back to emotion like you're talking about, and we got back to what the whole story is about, instead of a trade dispute that now I'm watching like a galactic battle because, of an embargo. Like,
I can't. We're talking about.
Well, do you think 7 brought the feeling back? So you're saying the end of 3 starts to.
I think that's the thing. It's like we got to talk about all these movies. It's all
they're connected.
It's all connected. It's like and that's the fucking confusing thing about all this stuff. And I guess just sort of like the state of movies in general that I kind of get mad at is that like how much shit am I supposed to keep in my head to figure these movies out? And it's not that crazy with these, but sometimes there's just like psychological or emotional juggling that you have to do to kind of like figure out how to process what you're looking at, because there's so much history. There's like decades of history, which isn't like the biggest deal. I think it's maybe more of a problem sometimes when I watch the Marvel films, because there's a lot of information that I'm just like forgetting about. 12 movies, it's like a lot of information. Whereas like this, I think brings it back to try to like just be like really blunt and broad and simple, and like, you're the good guys, you're the bad guys, and let's just get into it.
Okay, on that note then, let's talk about the biggest complaint with this movie, that it was just a remake of A New Hope, of Episode 4. Do you feel that way? Because I have thoughts and opinions about this, obviously.
Well, okay.
But what do you think about that?
I would say, for starters, it should be said that like making any movie is hard. Making movies is hard, and I'm sure making a Star Wars movie is like one of the hardest jobs out there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and especially this Star Wars movie, because of what we said before, like there's a lot of baggage.
There's a lot of pressure to succeed.
There's a lot of pressure from every possible angle.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of things to figure out how to juggle, not to mention just the first job of just making a good story. And so it's like what you're talking about, movies that have come out recently in the past couple of years, like maybe 2015, since 2015, that feel like the generation that first experienced certain franchises has finally grown up and has figured out a way to repackage their nostalgia into blockbusters. So we're talking about Jurassic World and Terminator Genesis.
Yeah.
Like those movies seem to be like the greatest hits of those previous franchises, whether it's like the feelings, the emotions, or like even visuals and like iconography. It's like, but like figure out a way to repackage it into like a new plot. So it's kind of this weird. It's like it kind of feels new, but it feels old, and it's a weird. It's just weird,
Yeah.
But like, but I think those movies kind of like pulled it off well enough. It's like if that was their intention, like they succeeded in what they were attempting to do.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people like Jurassic World. I heard a lot of flack towards Terminator Genesis.
I did too. I mean,
I didn't think it was terrible. Have you seen it?
I saw it. I don't remember quite that much when I saw it, but
it's right. So it's like it's not the best Terminator film.
But I mean, I was like, I think I was appreciating the fact that like it felt like they were trying to like make it a period piece, and so like I think I liked like kind of going back into the 80s, but like through a 2016 filter or lens,
Yeah.
But yeah, it just gets weird when it's like, why exactly are we mining the nostalgia? Like just to hit the button? Because like what happens after we hit the button?
The reset button.
Or just like that kind of.
Oh,
like,
the nostalgia button.
Yeah, just that like that little drip in the back of our whatever, like, our
to
brains.
Make it feel good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like here's like this thing that you've been waiting for, and like here it is, and you got what you paid admission for.
Yeah. So okay.
Yeah.
So this one, 7, I feel like it hits the nostalgia button.
Yeah.
It provides something new.
Yeah.
And on the nostalgia button, I don't feel like it's A New Hope rehashed.
Well, so I think that's the thing about 7 is that they had two jobs, which is like that they wanted to redo Star Wars and restart it again. And so they took the model of A New Hope and then also knew that they couldn't just do that, so they had to make it feel new. And so I think that maybe that, if there are issues I have with the film, that it seems like maybe some of them come from this balancing act of like, what do we keep and what do we discard, and then what do we invent, and how do we satisfy all these different things, which is hard, you know?
Well, it's like they had key elements from A New Hope throughout the film, right?
Yeah.
But they replaced the characters in those key elements. Like, for instance, Poe can also stand as the new Han Solo, quote unquote, but also as like the new Luke, because he is the X-Wing pilot, like the crack shot X-Wing pilot, right? Flying with the new R2-D2 BB-8.
Yeah.
And we see that with the whole remake of the trench scene with the new Death Star, you know? But while we're getting these same elements, we're dealing with different characters in different places and different character models fulfilling those roles. And so I think that is the most important thing that makes me fight that argument, is that it's the same situation, but all movies are just a rehash of the same situation with different characters.
Yeah, and
what's wrong with that?
No, and I don't have a problem with Star Wars, with Force Awakens just doing A New Hope again, because A New Hope was good.
Yeah.
Like, it was a good movie. And I think that, I guess, something that I want to do now that we are doing this is like watch A New Hope and Force Awakens back to back to kind of to sort of see what the differences are.
So our next one's going to be A New Hope.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm down. Yeah. I think so. Here's sort of like my theory, or my working theory, is that so something that I mentioned while we were watching it was how just noticing maybe like parts in the beginning, like say like when we first meet Rey, you know, is like that's different than A New Hope, because this film, Force Awakens kind of cuts around to a lot of different viewpoints kind of early on, whereas in A New Hope, we get the blast of excitement and adventure immediately, but then we're just with the droids once they go down to Tatooine, and then it's kind of like we're sort of down there for a while.
It's boring.
We're kind of hanging around in the desert. It's weird. It's Jawas, or and it's like we don't know what's going on, and it like it's but we're like like linearly tracking the droids, and so we're just hanging out with them, and I think it kind of lulls you into some sort of like just forgetting like anything that you could have thought about until suddenly Luke Skywalker shows up, and then like, oh yeah, this is probably our hero, and it kind of like it's very kind of elegantly like leads you to his doorstep, whereas here, like they cut immediately just to Rey, like they show her, they like it's like a shot of Finn putting his helmet back on, and then Rey masked in the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of immediately we don't like worry about it's like we don't have time for that. And I guess in this movie that I'm pretty sure that they have like similar total running times, 2 hours 15 minutes, but I guess Force Awakens is totally different from Star Wars in how they like utilize the time, whereas like I wonder if in A New Hope, if there are fewer scenes, and those scenes that are there are longer. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, absolutely. So, but these two, A New Hope and Force Awakens, they're trying to accomplish two different things.
Yeah.
With the same scenery.
Yeah. Yes.
Because A New Hope, and you mentioned this, A New Hope, we had never seen Star Wars before. Like the world had no idea what Star Wars was.
Yeah.
What it was going to be, or like you said, what was going on. So we had to have these like establishing, and there were no other characters to follow. If you sit here and think about it, like We didn't know who Han Solo was,
No.
right? There was no reason to know who Han Solo was. Leia was captured by Darth Vader, who we really didn't know anything about. We didn't care about Leia. I mean, we were sad that like this princess got captured and her planet was that didn't even happen, right?
Yeah, but somehow we find ourselves like connecting more with this droid.
Yeah.
Than and his annoying sidekick than any human in the movie.
Right, and George is still in those first 30 minutes trying to show you this brand new world that the world had never seen before. This doesn't need to do that because everybody knows, everyone who's sitting in the theater knows what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, no. I mean that is.
But I get what you're saying.
I think that's a really valid point. You know, and I think that is the world that we live in. I guess it's like, it just sort of, if we're looking at A New Hope, and like what it did, I guess, and then what Force Awakens is doing. A New Hope is like a hero's journey, right? Like it feels like that, and like everything about it is just kind of designed to experience this like very specific end, which is that we as an audience are gonna undergo our own hero's journey with Luke Skywalker, and so it's like very kind of like A to B to C, very simple. Like here's our objective, and like we accomplish it. And I guess like this is much different. I think the differences in A New Hope and Force Awakens are like, for me, are about that in particular. Is that like A New Hope is start to finish kind of like enclosed, is a enclosed hero's journey, whereas this is like, it's like a pilot. You know, it's like a TV show pilot where we don't get a lot of answers, where we don't track any particular storyline. Like it doesn't really feel to me like there is the same kind of arc that we had in like in the first Star Wars, like, because he didn't know if there was going to be any other movies.
Right, so he finished it.
So he just finished it. So it's like so we feel like this huge journey and like arc that we get to experience. Whereas these guys, it's like they know that there's going to be 3 movies or however many. So they're much more sophisticated about how they're doling out information. But like as a standalone movie, when you're watching it, like sometimes you're like, it's hard to, like I wonder if our opinion of this movie is going to be different once the trilogy is complete. Once the new trilogy is complete.
Yeah.
If we're gonna find, like, once we understand the mysteries that we don't know right now, if it's going to be a different movie.
Will we look back on it and say like, wow, yeah, they set that up really well.
Yeah.
I read some comment on Reddit about how, or someone was asking the question in the subreddit books, do you guys ever feel like an author writes an entire book just to get you to one specific moment that has been built up very subtly for like all of this complexity to come together? And I'm not just talking about a climax. I'm talking about like all of these little puzzle pieces that they've
like little like revelations. Like,
okay, yeah.
That J.K. Rowling knew. Or something.
Yeah.
Like or Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It's like I know that this is going to happen.
Right.
Even if that's like 2 or 3 books away.
And J.K. Rowling was like really, really good at doing that with Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. She would have little bitty things happen, little, the butterfly effect, like in the beginning that you didn't even pay attention to. Yeah. And even this movie had it when I pointed it out to you. And we should also put like a huge spoiler alert like all over this for.
If you have not,
I feel like everyone's
seen. I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast,
you've seen it.
You will have seen Star Wars.
Yeah.
Force Awakens, hopefully.
But when they get to Maz's place and we see the one droid, the microphone droid.
Oh yeah.
Let the Resistance know.
Yeah.
They got here, and then cuts to the other person. Let the First Order know that they got here. You forget about that almost immediately.
Yeah.
Because it's so subtle and it's so almost meaningless.
Yeah.
And then you forget about it until the X-Wings are like flying in to save the day, and you're cheering because they're there. But then if you think about like, wait, where do they come from? Oh, that 6 seconds.
There is a reason that they're there, and like those moments with like the subtitle, like those are kind of like, as much as I'm like skeptical of nostalgia, I'm not immune to it, because like I love like anytime like those subtitles are on screen, I'm like fuck yeah, like this feels like Star Wars, like just like the design, and like the shadow,
I agree,
of the subtitle.
I've never even thought about it, but like I just subconsciously agree.
It makes me happy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're similar to, if it's just sort of like Lucasfilm subtitles, because if there's similar types of scenes in like Indiana Jones.
Do you think Kalima Shakti
Yes, something like
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, like those guys, ILM and just like
they have one font.
No, but like they're they made really great fucking movies. Like they were really kind of incredible. Like to kind of think how. How just what these guys were like combining all these different influences and like figuring out ways to like make it new, because like nobody was making movies on like the level of Empire or Jedi when they were coming out. Like those guys were like the top of the kingdom as far as like quality, like any of it, like nobody had seen kind of fantasy look like this or any movie.
Well, I guess James Cameron was kind of throwing his hat in.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like,
oh, you mean
1983 Jedi coming out?
Oh, okay.
And just
okay.
And just like the look of like Luke Skywalker at the end standing on like talking to Palpatine, and just kind of how like fucking amazing all that stuff looks.
Yeah, true. It was epic. It was epic without you knowing that you were watching an epic moment.
Yeah.
And you immediately accepted that it was epic. I feel like when I watch Game of Thrones or something, I know, like Lord of the Rings. I don't mean to bring it up, but like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, when I'm watching those movies, I'm watching them through epic glasses that I know I've put on. But when I'm watching Star Wars, I have epic contacts in that they put in for me.
Yeah.
That I just don't even realize.
I mean, I think that...
if that was a
No, totally. Because I think... No, yes, because like, I think that one... So one thing about Force Awakens... and like it's in the beginning of the movie where like whoever the fuck his name is like, this will begin to make things right. Where they're talking about the movies.
Oh, the random old man that we have no idea. We even asked like, who is that guy?
Yeah, who's this dude? We don't know, but like he's like it's like he's saying that, and then like when we see Poe Dameron for the first time, I remember in theaters, like I'm sure you were there opening night.
Mm-hmm.
So like opening night, it was like there's just like that special charge that's in the theater, and I think everybody's like acutely connected and aware of like what they're looking at. There's like there's a charge, and it was super exciting when we cut to Poe Dameron for the first time, because he was fucking awesome from the first shot and the first moment that he speaks a line, because you're just like, yeah, this feels like Star Wars, like, and it's sort of like this feels like Star Wars, and it feels like something that we haven't felt in a long, like this sort of like heroism, and sense of adventure, and like dashingness.
Yeah,
it was just like instantaneous, and I think it's kind of, I was kind of sold the minute that I saw Poe Dameron on screen. I lost my train of thought of why I brought that up, but it's like, but he's like
the epic glasses.
The epic glasses, and so I think this, like compared to the prequels.
Yeah.
Which.
Those you put on your own epic glasses when you watch that.
And like, there's something about the prequels that feels. I think they're real interesting and not as bad as people say. Like, I think frankly they're probably incredibly amazing. Like any trilogy, like even the Matrix trilogy, it's like people shit on stuff so easily these days. But like if you think about it, like it exists. It's there just for us to enjoy. Like you don't need to enjoy like everything if you don't want to. But like there's a lot of cool shit in there.
Yeah.
And the prequels that Lucas made are like so complex and sophisticated, and like there's so much going on. And it's kind of a miracle that like any of that stuff works in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like there's stuff that's like wooden or like awkward, but like the level of shit that's happening in those movies is unreal.
There's
but it feels like, it kind of feels like Downton Abbey.
It does. That's a good, yeah, it really does.
Versus this, it does not.
Well, and I always say that the prequels feel like they're coming packaged in lots of cellophane. Like you're getting these like packaged in plastic.
The opposite of A New Hope.
Exactly.
It's like it was like real and it felt like 70s teenagers.
Yeah, but think about the time that those movies were made, right? They were made in different, and so the benefit of 7 is, one, they were like, okay, people didn't like that pre-packaged prequel crap, right? Meaning the feeling you get.
I feel like that's a lie though. I'm sure everybody.
Not that people didn't like the prequels.
Yeah.
People didn't like as much the feeling of of it feeling like it was wrapped in plastic, right? And I don't know how any other way to describe that.
And this, it's like the plastic is off.
It was naive. Like the prequels feel naive when I watch them.
Totally.
And yeah, this
especially number 1.
Oh, especially.
But like as far as what we're talking about in terms of like the nostalgia being packaged and doing greatest hits, I do feel like there's no way that they can make this movie and pretend to be unaware of like the prequels or even the first Star Wars movies. And so like this feels like because like in this movie it's like we kind of get we get A New Hope, obviously. We get a little bit of Endor, maybe, in the woods, and then it's like we're at the end of Empire Strikes Back, at the end of this movie with Han Solo and Ben.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so if the whole movie is kind of like, okay, if that was their intention, it's like let's get through all of the nostalgia buttons in the first one because we know that's what you want and what we have to do, so we clean the slate or clear it. So episodes 8 and 9 are like up for grabs. Like it could be anything.
So the sorbet that they put on the table, it's delicious, but it was just to clear your palate. It's to give you what you want, clear your palate.
It had to.
And it's delicious.
Yeah.
You're gonna enjoy it, but get ready for like the real flavor.
Because it feels things feel different once Han Solo dies. Like
that's a very good point.
Like because it's just the kids.
Yeah.
It's just the new characters, and we're in the woods, and in the theaters you're kind of like, wait, I don't know what's gonna happen right now. Like this is a new, like this feels.
You're confused.
Yeah.
Well, and Chewie instantaneously becomes this like wise old.
Right.
Where before when Han is alive, yeah, Chewie's just like this random beast that runs around with Han, right? But as soon as Han dies, you're like, oh my god, like Chewie's like my sage on the stage.
I mean, but like he if you think about it, he's probably like 900 years old.
I mean, definitely.
Like who knows how old Chewie is?
I feel like he gets toned down. He gets taken down a notch, maybe. But no, that's a great point. You're saying to yourself like, oh my, we have a new crew. Like here's the new crew.
Like that's it. And I think Kylo Ren says like, Han Solo can't save you anymore. He isn't here to save you anymore.
Oh, it's just us.
It's just us.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think that was an exciting moment in the theaters to be looking at like this is it's all resting on these shoulders, and that, and then the fact that like Adam Driver is like so intense, and it's like I haven't seen like I don't think like Star Wars has not been this intense ever.
Well, what I was gonna say was
except for Luke, I think in like certain moments.
Yeah, with his eyeballs.
Yeah, and the crying and like. No. I'm saying like
Luke
in Empire, like in terms of like internal like struggle and emotion, like it was crazy. Like in the theaters, seeing Adam Driver, like I'm sure everybody like forgot about girls the minute like we saw like Adam Driver with the mask off, because he's just like
forgot about what?
Girls, like the HBO show, because like people were like I'm not.
Oh, that's like, right. Yeah,
they were saying that they didn't know if they could buy Adam Driver as this character, but I think that as soon as he's in the woods in the snow, like hitting his wound, his face is fucking crazy, and I think everybody's kind of taken aback at just like how intense the movie just got.
Yeah,
like beyond killing Han Solo, just it's like we're looking at like James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, like. Going full on like emo,
and
you're kind of like holy shit, this like things got real,
like
these are some like intense emotions that we're feeling right now, and I like that scene. I think that's probably like one of my favorite scenes in the movie is that force battle. You know,
it really does set the stage for what's to come.
Yeah.
And really, I think gives us huge insight into Kylo and like who he really is, and like the internal struggle. Even though he's like telling his dad,
being a teenager.
Yeah, even though he's telling his dad on the catwalk, oh, I'm just conflicted. I don't know if I have the strength to do it, and Rey even calls him out, saying like, you're afraid you're not going to be as strong as Darth Vader. I think in that moment in the woods, we get to, his emotion comes through his face, and we get to see like how conflicted he is, the pride that he battles with constantly, this like animal instinct of, I don't know, it's just like, what am I doing?
Yeah, but I think it's like, I think it's all on Adam Driver, because like there are so many moments. I think I mentioned it. There's like a lot of moments where Adam Driver is like he's like force handing somebody.
Yeah.
And they're big intense moments, but I don't know what's happening.
Right.
You know, it's just kind of like it's like something. It's like, I think via the music, it's kind of telling us that something big just happened. But I feel like
even the dialogue is not even. Think back to when he's like force handing Rey, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I feel it too. What was he talking about?
Yeah, I don't know.
Even some of the dialogue, we don't know.
I mean, I think that's like, it's not impossible. I mean, so I think that like that, like those moments where like his hand is out and his like trying to extract information or exact punishment on somebody via the Force are really hard scenes to pull off cinematically, because it's like, because you're looking at nothing.
Yeah, true.
You know, but like it's not impossible because those scenes existed in the first movie. You know, and
Granted, choking,
and then like the scene on Hoth in the ice cave with that Yeti monster.
Oh yeah.
Like I love that moment in particular.
This obviously knew it needed to push those nostalgia buttons, right, with like A New Hope, but it also recognizes that we need to see blood from the stormtroopers. We need to see the stormtroopers' uniforms getting dirty. We need to see them in pain. We need to see that even the stormtroopers have emotion. There was a picture online, and I don't know who did it, and it circulated like maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's this stormtrooper like hunched over in the midst of battle, and blood is like coming out of his helmet, and he's like grasping his chest, and I will never forget this picture, and it's nothing that's been published anywhere or anything. It's just like this picture that gets circulated around the internet, and it was the first moment in my mind I had ever thought that like stormtroopers bleed, or that there was actually a person underneath that stormtrooper helmet. And I think that right there gives a great picture for what Episode 7 was trying to show and do. Was that like, yeah, this is a real world we're gonna take seriously.
Yeah.
Like this is not some.
I mean, like the clones in the prequels never felt more like clones, and like, you know, because like there were clones, and they're all CGI,
right?
Versus like here, like they're kind of going out of their way to at least like show Finn as like a real person,
right? Well, and the one guy dying and putting the blood on his helmet, and
okay, so
which is over dramatic to me.
It's dramatic. And this is like a small point, but I think maybe like goes to a bigger point, is like, okay, so where's the blood coming from? Here's like this kind of like micro, like nitpicky thing, but it's like, you know, aren't blaster
supposed to? And I think about that every time.
Cauterized.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's like, so there's that, you know, whatever you think about that. But as far as like in general, you know, what any movie is supposed to do, right, is supposed to make you suspend your disbelief. So you're into the emotions and into the story. And I think that this movie there are moments where like on maybe accident or like because they didn't, you know, like that is an example where like somebody could get thrown out of the movie being like, wait, like where's the blood coming from?
Yeah.
You know, But also, it's like the movie itself is like a TV show in the fact that it's like all it's doing is like setting up all these questions. So you're constantly kind of thrown out of the movie because you're not like A New Hope. You're not there. There aren't so many questions, and so it's basically just like you're kind of riding like the hero's journey and like
you're
the emotion. Whereas here, it's like I think there are lots of moments where you're like, what's happening? Like, what's going on? Like, what does that mean? Like, who is this person? Like.
I would rather have that time and time again than you explain to me the Force with midichlorians.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And I think maybe it was J.R.R. Tolkien who said it.
But I feel like I didn't. But I feel like the crazy thing about A New Hope is that like when you look at that movie, compare this one and that one, because like this is like the most high tech Star Wars that's ever been made.
Right.
And A New Hope is like almost falling apart.
Yeah.
And it feels that way like all the time when you watch it. It feels like it's falling apart, like
it's held together with super glue.
Yeah, like the actors are just are laughing between takes or something.
Yeah.
But
Carpenter is the main character.
But
Sorry.
like, what do you? But like, how do we feel? Do we feel like fuller at the end of A New Hope, or do we feel like or in this movie, and like the idea like going back to like the Force.
Yeah.
Or like how to like show that cinematically. It's like that's totally esoteric and abstract. It's like that's like the real magic act is like George Lucas making us believe in the Force.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I ever believed it in this movie.
Huh.
Yeah. And I did in Star Wars.
So again though, they're doing different things. It's like with this movie, they know you accept it.
And there's 2 more of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean like yeah.
But I know what you're talking about.
I don't know if I am down with that. Like the fact that like we all, because I mean I think that's the whole thing about this movie, and these kids in the movie. It's like they don't know, they've forgotten.
Yeah, true. She's like, oh, I thought Luke was a myth.
The world has forgotten about the Force and about the Jedi, and I feel like I think we all needed a reminder time, every now and then, like what the Force is.
So even when in that last battle scene when he's trying to like force pull the lightsaber and she like force pulls it to her.
Right, yeah.
Did you believe in the Force then?
I believe that everybody in my theater like went nuts. Like because it's set up as a moment that's supposed to be big, and then like everybody just kind of like met it halfway. But like again, it's like what I was saying before about having questions. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
It's like, how does she know how to do all this stuff? And like, I understand like if those questions are going to be answered in later movies.
True.
But in the moment, it's just kind of like
it takes you out of it.
Whereas like in A New Hope, like everything is kind of like plotted and set up sequentially. So when those moments hit, we just sort of like we're ready, and we're ready to accept some transcendent moment. And here, because of all the mysteries that are being planted for other movies to answer, I feel like we don't get certain payoffs.
What about when Obi-Wan dies in A New Hope and he disappears?
Yeah.
Right? So, number one, he just like accepted his death.
I mean, that fucked me up when I was a kid, man.
And then he disappears.
Yeah.
It fucked you up.
Yeah.
What part? Tell me what fucked you up about that.
Well, like I think that there's like a magic to older movies when they do stuff like that, because it's like because it's happening right before our eyes, and it's like you kind of can't believe it. Like just the way that moment happens in that movie, it's like we're Luke, and it's like he's there but he's not there. Like why did he sacrifice himself? Like why did he just like take it? It's like I can't comprehend what's happening when I'm that age, and it was overwhelming. I remember like being a kid, because it was shocking, and it's crazy because like that moment is so small and subtle. It's like and simple, I'm sure, in terms of like the execution. It's just like a shot here, and it's like probably looks like real, like that whole movie just looks very simple and like flat.
Yeah.
but the effect of like the editing and the implication of like what's happening to these characters, it's so affecting that you're just like, holy shit, like what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and there's a great he says, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. There's a great thing that or point to what we're trying to say of maybe what's going to happen with this movie, of questions that will be answered later with the other two movies. That was answered kind of towards the end of that movie when he's like in Luke's head and he's like, use the Force, Luke, and then he comes, we get to hear Obi-Wan again and again, right? And he comes back as like a Force ghost, right? And we get to learn about the Force that way, that it's answered throughout the trilogy. But that's interesting too, because he didn't know if he was going to make those other movies.
No.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited. Like, I think that viewing it this time, I was definitely more excited about the next Star Wars films than I have been in a while, and I'm definitely pumped about Rogue One.
Yeah,
because it definitely looks, I don't know, it just looks awesome. It just looks cool. And obviously, like, we don't know anything about Episode 8.
Right.
But
I do know that Luke is going to have lines.
Yeah, right.
Episode 8, or I'm hoping so. That was you saw his tweet right after this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, there's we've also, for everyone listening, we've had the movie playing in the background without sound, and we just got to see the subtitles of
the sexy subtitles.
Yeah, of this alien language being spoken.
No, but you're talking about Luke and lines and.
Oh yeah, did you see his tweet after somebody asked him, how did you feel when you first read the script and you saw that you had no lines?
No, what did he say?
His tweet just said, speechless. I loved it. Mark Hamill. Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, that's going to be... I mean, like, that's going to be cool. I mean, like, there's so much more that we could talk about for this movie.
Sure.
One of the things being, like, the use of the older actors in the film, and also like the revelations that are like how certain revelations are handled in the film.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing, just as an aside, it's like there, like, I felt like we were talking about before with the running time being similar, but information seemed like being packed in to this film. Like, there's the scene where we meet Snoke.
Yeah.
It's like so many things happen in that scene. Like, we meet fucking Snoke for the first time.
Yeah.
We see this giant alien,
right,
like, dictator.
You don't realize it's a hologram.
So okay, so first we meet the dictator. He's huge. We see like the big bad dude. Then in the same scene, we learn that Kylo Ren is Han Solo's and Leia's kid. And then 3, we learn that Snoke is a hologram.
Yeah.
And all the 3 of those things are huge, like, moments and like revelations, and like they're all just like in one scene. And
and I agree with you when you said, what if that was the reveal when we're on the catwalk and Han Ben says, what do you think you'll see if I'll take off my mask? And Han says, I'll see the face of my son.
Yeah,
that would have been a great reveal.
I would have not minded. And like I remember, like, it's one thing. By the way, like, it's very nice to talk about this now versus a year ago when the movie came out, because everybody was just like, nobody could talk about this film.
Yeah.
Like, everybody had some like militant opinion one way or the other about it. Was impossible.
There was a lot of emotions. There were
a lot of emotions.
I have to admit something. I said that I was their opening night, but I started thinking I was not their opening night. I because of work, I didn't get to see it like until 4 or 5 days after it came out.
Yeah.
And so I spent those 4 or 5 days shut off from the internet. I didn't talk to anybody. There's a bunch of people at my office that went to see it.
Were you terrified?
I was terrified. Yeah. I just stayed away from everything. I didn't get on Reddit. I didn't get on Facebook. It was an odd time. It reminded me of like what 2004 was like. I just didn't. I played a lot of single player games and read books and stuff.
Wow. Like you like.
I had my headphones on all the time. It was tough.
That's dedicated. Like that was like.
I held out. I did it
because there's a real chance that just like being in a convenience store.
Anything.
You would hear.
Could you believe that Han is dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What were we talking about? About the
high emotion that
high emotion.
It's nice to talk about it now because we can analyze it rather than have these like emotional opinions that we have them out of emotion, but we don't know if we actually agree with them.
So I think that's where I stand, is like the emotion. Like in any movie, I think that's kind of where I am. Is like I don't care if it's a remake or a reboot or like you're just redoing A New Hope, as long as like I am being emotionally fulfilled as like a viewer. And so I remember one argument being that, well, if they waited until that moment on the catwalk to have the reveal for who his son would be, then it would just be like Empire Strikes Back and him saying that I'm your father. So they couldn't do that.
I didn't even think of that.
To make it different.
Great point.
And it's like, and so like they're wanting it to be different. But for me, I mean, like me personally, it's like I think that I would, and who knows if what I'm saying would work.
Yeah.
That like if we wait till that moment to have the reveal, but I guess thinking about it, maybe that it could potentially be more emotional for us to wait until that moment, and I think that if that is the case, then like I would choose that over.
But then think about this though.
Right.
Okay, you're pushing on another nostalgia button, right? Which they've been doing the whole movie anyway.
Yeah.
Then we get to find out that Kylo is Han Solo's son.
Yeah.
In the same moment, we will have to watch him die.
Yeah.
Is that more emotional than how it actually plays out? You know, do we form a different bond? Are we? How do we feel going into the fight then with Finn, Rey, and Kylo?
You'd hate him. I mean, like I feel like the way that it plays out now, it's like
we understand him.
We already understand Kylo Ren, you know, and so I mean, like
it's expected.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated.
It's an easier pill
situation.
to swallow, actually. Now that you've said that, it's a much easier pill to swallow to kill off Han Solo that way. That we've like expected this evil son to do this, rather than like all of it happen at once, and then we're dealing with the loss of like this beloved character, right? And the like rage and hatred for this son that we didn't think this was inside of him, to kill his father. I like the way they played it out. It would have been interesting to see.
Right. I mean, right. Like there are lots of other things that would have to change.
Yeah.
You know. So and like again,
you said that.
I'm a dude in an armchair talking about. Here's how they should have changed Star Wars.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, I think that.
And that wasn't. I just had that revelation, like at talking myself through it.
No. I mean, like it's. I think that's the thing where I mean. Like, you can't. Everybody's opinionated, and it's hard not to be like as jaded as I want to be about this movie, and like not care. It's like I can't. It's impossible to not have an opinion about Star Wars, or to care about it, or to be like emotionally invested in it.
Of interaction.
If you think about franchises and like what is like left to be invented yet, like I don't know how many things there really are. Probably there's one or two or something that could be like. But I don't know if anything could rival Star Wars, just because it seems to contain everything that you could possibly, you know.
What about Twilight, man? What about the Hunger Games?
No comment.
Can we never do a self-loathing podcast on
where
Twilight or the Hunger Games? Can I just say right now that I hate both of those franchises?
Well, like I haven't seen Twilight.
None of it.
I feel like I would be into the Pacific Northwest setting. And I think because we're like two basically 30-year-old dudes watching Twilight, we would have to just get into it and like talk about it like a soap opera. Because we would know that like it's not really made.
It wasn't made for us.
Yeah.
We are not the demographic. I get that.
although that in and of itself is like a, like that argument was like made to me talking about Star Wars when I was like, I had questions. I was like, there were things in it that like when I first saw it like that night, I was like kind of just had questions, and like one of the rebukes was an exasperated like, well, Nikhil, like this movie just wasn't made for you, because it's like made for kids, I guess.
7 episodes specifically.
Episode 7, and I guess that's a puzzler. It's like, is that true? I don't
think so at all.
And is any movie supposed to? Is that a good excuse for any movie? Because E.T. is made for kids, but I can watch E.T. now, and it's still like
there's something for everyone in that movie. I feel E.T.
Yeah, absolutely. So
well, and that's a whole nother. We're approaching an hour.
Okay.
We should cut it off.
We should totally cut it off.
Thank you if you're still listening. Thank you for listening to the first Lanbrew podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So before closing thoughts.
Okay.
Closing thoughts. What are your? Or I'll go. I'll go.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I've accepted Star Wars. I think on this viewing, I think I was conflicted about what I felt about the movie, and I think now I'm just like, I've accepted that. Like this is what it is. These are the characters. These are the stories. This is where it's going, and I'm like excited to watch the next installment because I want to know what happens.
It's no Transformers.
It's no Transformers. There are so many more moments of joy, which I was surprised at, like in the theaters when I saw it the first time. Was like that it was, and I if that's that nostalgia button that like we're all guilty of having, but yeah, I mean I remember just feeling things that I hadn't felt in a while, and that is cool.
Watching a film.
Watching
Star Wars.
Yeah, watching this movie, and yeah, I think I'm on board, but I think it's taken me like a while to like be on board for whatever reason.
A healthy amount of skepticism is a good thing, I think. Okay, so welcome to the club.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's a great place to be. I've been here for a while.
Glad to be here. What are your thoughts about watching the movie this 5th time?
I enjoyed it as much as I did the second time watching it in Taiwan. There goes my voice.
Yeah.
Because my second viewing was in Taiwan with subtitles, and the Taiwanese, Asia is not into Star Wars as much, as America is. So watching it, it was like not a packed theater at all. They were like,
yeah,
and they were kids.
But on viewing 2.
Yeah, there was viewing 2. And there were kids like running around the theater to the point where like Vicky is like yelling at the kids. Like that was Ryan's first viewing.
Yeah.
Though. So anyway, it was.
That's memorable.
Absolutely. I enjoyed this movie as much the 5th time as I'm gonna enjoy it the 6th time. I think it's totally brought it back to what Star Wars is in my perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what
an adventure.
An adventure in space, across races and time, and
a fun space adventure.
Yeah. Like I love the world. I love the world of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And this movie went back to that. Absolutely. So anyway, I can't wait to watch it a 6th time.
Me either, man. All right, but next time we're doing Twilight.
A New Hope.
Okay, all right.
Never Twilight. Actually, I will say this. I haven't seen the last Twilight movie, but everything but the last Twilight movie I have watched.
I'm impressed.
Thank you. Well, I was hungover, like a 2-day hangover in Korea, and I couldn't do anything except for watch Twilight and eat peanut butter on toast eventually. Yeah. And Twilight got me through some hard times. So it was enough to distract me from wanting to like puke every 2 seconds. So hey,
Yeah.
I hand it to Twilight for that. So.
All right. So.
So we'll move on from here. Okay. Thank you for listening to the Lanbrew podcast #1, talking about episode 7.
Yeah. Thank you guys. This was. Thank you for listening to us ramble.
Us ramble. Yeah. I think there's some gold. There was some gold here.
I think so.
Okay, sir.
All right, sir.
We'll catch you guys in episode 2.
On the flip side.
with 90s colloquial. See you later.
Yeah. Bye.